Thank you, Quinn. And here we are, we're back. Welcome, everybody. And we've got a couple of attendees there, so, and some more staff members, so welcome aboard. And I'll just go to the first thing on the agenda. It is moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Councillor Dirksen, the minutes of the Town of Minto, August 24th, 2021 closed session meeting and August 24th, 2021 council meeting be approved. Anybody opposed? That's carried. Okay. Additional items. Anybody got additional items? I have one. Anybody else? Keep that in mind going forward. Okay. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Gunson, that the Town of Minto Council convenes into the committee of the whole. Anybody opposed? Carried. We have no delegations today. Correspondence received for information requiring direction of council. And I will do the move by Councillor Anderson, second by Councillor McKenzie. Council receives the correspondence information. And I ask if anybody wanted anything pulled from that. I have one item I'd like pulled, and that would be the Minto Arts Council request letter for the County of Wellington. Read the painting of the art gallery and replacement of the lighting. I think that's been ongoing, and I'd like to ask if we could add our support to that. Go ahead, Councillor Dirksen.
Just wondered if we could have a look at the optometrist letter.
Yep.
I don't know whether that's the thing that's in our
really isn't our, we can't do much. But, yeah.
But I guess we can. I mean, we could support it, I guess, and lots of people in our community wear glasses, and if they don't wear glasses, they still need their eyes tested. So it's certainly out of reach for some people.
Yeah. Okay, those two items. Okay, anybody else got anything? Okay, so the Arts Council, when I did make my comments, has anybody got any concerns about supporting that? Is that what we need to do? I assume, Gord, that's what you're looking for.
Yes, that's correct, Mayor Bridge. The county prefers that the requests come from the town rather than directly from the Arts Council.
Well, sort of, because you rent from.
That's right. We're
from the town. Yeah, through us. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we're adding that support, and it's about time. I mean, it's been a while since we've been trying to do that, and I certainly would send it up the ladder for now, for sure. Annalene?
So through you, Mayor, I would just need a mover and a seconder for that.
Okay, can I have a mover? Councillor Elliott and Councillor Anderson, second. Anybody opposed? Carried. Now the next one up, Judy, did you want to speak to it, or, I mean, I have some background, but go ahead.
Sorry, I buzzed on by it here. I'll have to get back to it. Yeah, just that the cost is out of reach. I guess I said pretty much what I was going to say. The cost is sometimes out of reach for some people, and you know, it's really a medical issue, and so much of our medical we have some medical coverage, but we don't have medical coverage for eye care.
Right. Anybody else want to speak? Councillor Anderson.
I would concur with that. I think it's really important. Our seniors, well, everybody needs to have their eyes checked, but as we age, everybody's eyesight changes. And I'm afraid that if it's not covered, people just aren't going to go and have that followed up on until they're in real trouble. And if they're still operating motorized vehicles and so forth and so on, and they're not bothering to get their vision checked or attended to, then they could potentially have some real issues, as will the other people on the road with them. So I would certainly support that.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're looking for, is just moral support going forward. It's not, as you say, it's nothing that we control directly. Annalene, on these, how do we do that? Do we send just to, who do we send this if we decide?
Through you, Mayor Bridge, council would have to advise who they would like to send it to. They're asking us to call on the Ontario government to address this. Yeah. So we can certainly send it through to the Ontario government.
Yeah, I would assume it goes to health, would it not?
The Ministry of Health.
Minister Elliott, I would assume. And I think the problem is they're working on it, but I'm concerned as well. And some of our more susceptible groups, especially our young people and whatever, if you don't get eye tested quickly enough, you get behind the 8 ball. And it's not everybody that can't get a test, but it certainly doesn't cover off the whole thing for sure. Anyways, how do we want to do that? Did you want somebody to make that motion? Deputy Mayor Turk?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. What they're asking for is that we talk to the provincial government to commit to reforms. That's what it says.
So send a letter or to that effect.
Yeah, I'll make the motion, Mayor Bridge. Yeah.
And second by Councillor Gunson. Anybody opposed? Carried. So we'll drop something from us, from the mayor and the council, and send it to, I believe Derek and Annalene, you'll figure out where we have to send it, but I assume it'll be to Minister Elliott. Okay. That's passed. Okay, good. Anything else?
Through you, Mayor Bridge.
Yep.
Just a motion for the rest of the correspondence.
Yep, I did the motion. I already mentioned it was Councillor Anderson, Councillor McKenzie, so I'll just call for the vote. Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay, good. All right. Next up is the Culture Roundtable minutes, and I will ask Belinda to present.
Yep, thanks, Mayor
Belinda.
Rich. Yep. So the Culture Roundtable Committee met at the end of August in person outdoors safely, which was nice for a change. Just to highlight some things, the Railway Museum closed. The last day was August 29th, and we had some great students there again this year. And despite only being open for a very limited time with COVID, we actually had more attendance than last year. Again, we were not open as long as last year and had more people, so that was good. Also pointing out, we will have a request coming forward from the Minto Pride Group. They are going to be looking at a request to have rainbow crosswalks in Minto. And I know I did see that come through my email last week, so that will be coming forward. The Youth Action Council is up and running at the hub, and Aaron and Megan Raftis are working with Melanie over there, and they're having great number of kids come out already, and they have their first event happening next, well, I guess it's this week, from 7 to 8:30 at the Lions Park. So that's really good to see that up and happening again. Our Culture Days group is got a full jam-packed schedule of events happening the end of September till the end of October. So working through all the safety protocols of that. We have sent out all of our COVID-19 support grants. So right now, our volunteer organizations can apply for grants to help with marketing and promoting their events that they're finally able to do, as well as to help look for new volunteers and purchase any PPE equipment that they need to receive. And we are having a webinar next week for our volunteer groups and how to host events safely with the COVID. So that is happening. Lots happening there. And then the last piece is around our diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's our understanding that the CAOs in the county are talking about doing something jointly. So we are waiting for stuff to come out of that to move forward with some of those things. We ratified a motion to support the Historical Society with $1,000 towards their Beyond Boulevards book. And we just had our updates from the different committee members. So our next meeting is September 27th. And that's everything.
Great. Questions for Belinda? Councillor Elliott and then Deputy Mayor Turk. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
Just wondering, we're talking about the rainbow crosswalks. I don't disagree with that, but if when they bring that forward, could they bring forward a cost?
I believe they are doing that. I haven't read read their submission yet, but I
cost, who they expect to pay, whether it be us or whether they're involved in that or not. That'd be important to know when they do that report. Good.
Yes, so I know they had examples from other municipalities of similar sizes and the process and the costs and all those details. It's a pretty organized committee, and I know they'll likely have that information in there.
That's great. Thanks.
I think the Deputy Mayor Turk. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the Cultural Roundtable Committee, I mean, you guys deal with a lot of things, and there's a lot of information in your report. So many little things that are happening in Minto, and it's a really neat report. Like, I mean, so much information in there. So good luck with that committee. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wait till you see the great list of events coming for Culture Days.
I bet.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Busy
quite
group.
interesting. And I echo Deputy Mayor Turton on that. I mean, the Culture Roundtable Committee started off, I remember back when we had the little stickers, Belinda, and we put things up on this wall, like that was 10 years ago, I think. But over the years, a lot of these, they have a lot of subcommittees come out of it, right?
Mhm.
So not only they have the Culture Roundtable, but all these little small subcommittees like the Youth Committee and all the different ones, the diversity. And so it's kind of neat how it's grown over the years. And I'm really excited about the youth and getting that many out, Belinda, because I really feel that's going to be very important going forward, especially with our hub. And if we get those young people started early, they'll be our key and our anchor going forward. And it's nice to see that up and running again. And hopefully COVID will stay away long enough to keep us going on that. But that's really, really amazing. So good work on that committee. And sorry, I missed the last one, but
Okay.
I try to get to them when I can. Okay. Can I have, oh, I've already said who moved. No, I haven't yet. I did leave that off. Okay. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Deputy Mayor Turton. The council receives the Cultural Roundtable Committee minutes of August 26, 2021 and approves any recommendations contained therein. Anybody opposed? Carried. Great. Staff reports, and we have Kyle here. So Kyle, I'm going to turn it over to you. There you are, and you're going to bring us your report. And how long has it been, Kyle, since we've been working on? You've been involved 5 years now, or?
So the source water protection plans have been in effect since 2015 and 2016. So yeah, it's been a while for sure.
Yeah, it just goes by, doesn't it? Yeah, go ahead.
Time definitely goes by. Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Mayor Bridge, members of council, I'm pleased to present this report to you today for your consideration and information. It is regarding updates to the Saugeen Valley, Grey Sauble, Northern Bruce Peninsula Source Protection Plan and Assessment Report. As you will recall, the town of Minto is actually subject to two source water plans, which are based on watershed boundaries, the Maitland and the Saugeen. And this is the first of the source water protection plans in Minto, and one of the first in the county that we're seeing kind of a regularly scheduled update for. So this is a provincially initiated amendment, and it's a little different than some of the amendments we've seen in the past where there was a requirement for council resolution. Because it's a provincially initiated amendment, there's not a requirement for council resolution, but we do provide this for information and of course comments that we will forward off to the Source Protection Authority. So the changes that are drafted, public consultation will also happen with this as well, and that's scheduled at this point September or October. A little tentative due to COVID, of course, but it looks like it will happen this fall. The public consultation on this amendment, following the review of comments that were received during pre-consultation, and we're in the pre-consultation period right now. So the proposed changes are to the two main documents: the assessment report, which is the science and the summary of the science, and the source protection plan, which of course is the policies and the requirements, the implementation. So the assessment report changes fairly minor for the County of Wellington and the town of Minto. There'll be some update to some reference maps, but most of the changes that they're proposing in the assessment report are actually outside of the county for some other systems that are within the watershed. There will be some updates to some reference maps that'll be tied into some provincial guidance changes that are also forthcoming but haven't quite happened yet. And then in terms of policy changes, currently the majority won't actually apply to the town of Minto until the province updates some provincial guidance. But we are anticipating the province to update this guidance shortly. They finished their public consultation on the guidance, which is related predominantly to road salt and fuel thresholds back in 2019, 2020. So there obviously things have been delayed due to COVID, but we do expect that the province will update this provincial guidance shortly, maybe this year or in early next year, which will then mean these policy changes that are being proposed would then start to apply. So the policy changes would for regards to salt and fuel, which is most of the changes, would only apply, however, in the red areas, the score 10 areas within the town of Minto or other areas. And within the town of Minto, this is limited to the 100 meters around the municipal wells. But so these changes are to do with allowing for road salt risk management plans and for both application and storage. And there are certain thresholds related to that. So not only do they have to be in the score 10, but the parking lots need to be greater than about 8 parking spots, which is about 200 square meters. And certain land uses are exempt. And then there's also some policies related to municipal road maintenance, which would necessitate updates to the existing salt management plans that the town and the county maintain. And then there'll be some education policies as well, which would apply kind of globally. And then reduction of fuel volumes from a 2,500 liter volume to 250 liter volume. Again, applicable within the score 10 or the red areas, which in Minto is the 100 meter zone around the wells. There are also some updates regarding kind of consistency for the planning and building review. If you recall, a few years ago, we had this change to the Maitland policy that allowed us to start screening out residential applications. This policy change in Saugeen just kind of continues that trend and allows us to screen out certain industrial, commercial, low-risk industrial commercial applications, such as, say, an accessibility ramp or something along those lines. Overall, staff are in support of these comments. We have provided a few kind of editorial comments that are listed in the report there to Source Protection Authority staff, and of course we'll supply this staff report and the Wellington North staff report to the Source Protection Authority after the council meeting. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Kyle. And questions? I was interested in the salt thing, Kyle, so I'm sure you're getting a lot of comments on that, and I don't know if Mike's not on, but where you're going to go with that, because it's one of those risk reward things, right? So
yeah,
we want to cut back on salt because of the possible pollution and whatnot. So, but how do you keep protection of the roads as well? So. Yeah.
Absolutely, Mayor Bridge. It's definitely one of those risk reward, and it really comes down to a balance. So this would be, you could probably look at this as kind of the start of that balance, is that it only really applies actually close into the municipal well in terms of the legal requirements. Now in other areas of the county where we actually have kind of some increasing salt in municipal wells, Center Wellington in particular, we do have larger areas where these kinds of policies apply. But even in those areas, it is definitely still a balance, because you don't want to get into regulating the application rate of salt, but you want to be able to start talking about training and certification and design where that can happen as well. So.
Yep, great. Anybody else got any comments or concerns or whatever? So if not, Kyle, again, great job. And oh, sorry, go ahead, Judy.
I was just going to say, so this has been, in place for 5 or 6 years now. Are you finding that people are accepting of the of the rules and regs and so on, and like they know that it's part of building, and they know that it's part of, how, I guess I'm just wondering how you're received, and whether or not people are, if they're getting it, I guess is my question.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Yes and no. As it's integrated in planning and building, we find that those discussions tend to be a little easier because there's obviously an application in front of us, in front of the town, and there's work and design work that needs to be done. So often the changes that are required for source water are minor in the scheme of what they're proposing to do. So we find that in those discussions go fairly well and fairly easily. We do have some reluctance when it comes to existing properties, so properties that have been already in place prior to these regulations and requirements coming in force. So we do have kind of ongoing work to establish some of those risk management plans with those existing properties. We did take a step back in the last year and a half with COVID, just out of respect of what everybody's going through and health and safety, and also just what people are going through economically as well. But we do need to start kind of touching base with those existing properties again, and just kind of reminding them and nudging them to kind of come into compliance with the risk management plan policy. So we do have some still outstanding for existing. So it's, and that being said, some of the existing properties have jumped on board right away. So it really kind of depends on where everybody's at, and we try to meet them where they are at and support them as best we can.
Okay, thank you.
And thanks, Kyle, and thanks for your hard work on this and having. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Turk, go ahead.
Kyle, it's always interesting. Sorry, can you hear me? I'm having trouble with my computer.
Hear you. We're good. Very good, David. Go ahead.
So the Asable Bayfield Maitland won't be long before they're working on the same documents, Kyle?
Yes, yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, that's correct. They've already started actually the staff discussions on the Asable Bayfield Maitland plans. They're not at pre-consultation yet, but they will be probably. Well, timelines are always a little bit iffy right now with COVID, but probably in the next year and a bit, they'll be at the point where they'll get to this point, which is a pre-consultation notice. But yes, Maitland has already started. We've had some discussions with Donna and Mary Lynn going back probably about a year ago now. Is probably when that work started.
Good to see Saugene's way ahead of us.
Get on that, David. Yeah. Thanks again, Kyle. And again, thank you for your support. I know our local staff feel really comfortable talking to you when we have issues and we need to talk and get things clarified. And it's great that the county put you in charge of this about 5 years ago. I couldn't believe it's 5 or 6 years, but that long ago. So thank you very much for that. So I've got a motion. Who's that? Oh, I got Deputy Mayor Turton on there twice now, so there. Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councilor Dirksen, that the Council of Town of Minto receives for information the source water protection report regarding updates to the Saugeen Valley, Grey, Sauble, Northern Bruce Peninsula Source Protection Plan and Assessment Report. Okay. Anybody opposed? Carried. Thanks, Kyle. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much. You as well.
Bye. Okay, I'll move it over to Councillor Elliott to assume the chair. Go ahead, Councillor Elliott.
There. Thank you, Mayor Bridge. In turn, I'm going to turn that over to our Director of Community Services, and he's going to talk about arena use this fall and winter and spring. Go ahead, Matt.
Thanks, Councillor Elliott. Yes, similar to last year, we just wanted to update you around this time with where we're at for the upcoming ice season. So with respect to this year, it's shaping up like last season in terms of demand and number of ice surfaces required, as well as restrictions. That said, there are some key changes. I'll speak to both demand, restrictions, and the key changes now. So with respect to the current demand, we can accommodate all local rentals on 2 sheets of ice, which is why we were proposing a similar approach to last year. Demand is up slightly with adult and youth broomball groups looking to return after a complete year off last year. We're still waiting to find out exactly what the proof of vaccination exemption means for youth sport, but this could impact current demand. Most sports organizations now have policies where those eligible to be vaccinated are required to provide proof of vaccination to participate. Many restrictions are in place like last year, including self-assessment before arriving, screening and contact tracing upon arrival, hand hygiene, face coverings if not a participant and not on the ice, and physical distancing. Key change with physical distancing is the removal of the 50 persons at a time cap we saw in the green, yellow, orange color system last ice season. It's now based on a percentage of capacity, meaning more people can be in our facilities at one time. It's important to note, though, that physical distancing still is a requirement for dressing rooms, so we may need to use the odd again as dressing areas to meet this requirement. And we all need to bear in mind the situation is very fluid like last year, where we went through the color groups, a post-Christmas lockdown, consolidation of activity in February to one building, followed by a shutdown. We're definitely hoping this season is more stable this time around, but we know we can adapt if needed with the help and understanding of our minor sports and adult groups.
That's it? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna read the motion and then I'll ask for questions or comments after that. Moved by Councillor McKenzie and seconded by Councillor Anderson, that the council of the town of Minto receives the Director of Community Services report regarding facility operations as information. So there's the motion. We can take questions and comments now if anybody has any. Deputy Mayor Turton first, and then I think Councillor McKenzie and then Councillor Gutson.
Thank you, Chair. Matt, the three groups that are most impacted, what are they thinking about the Clifford Skating Club and the youth hockey and the Clifford Old Timers? They're okay with coming to Hairston or Palmerston to play?
So through Councillor Elliott, these three groups could be accommodated in Hairston. Last year, the Old Timers didn't play, albeit they weren't the only adult team that didn't play at all last year. Some had a few exhibition games in orange. Nobody practiced in red. Friday youth hockey, that didn't get off the ground either. The skating club did have a good year at Hairston. They had some pretty good ice time on Mondays and Wednesdays and were able to make that work. So their first preference would obviously be Clifford, but we've got good ice times available in Hairston if they wanted to have a go this fall.
Good, thank you.
Councillor McKenzie,
Thanks.
did you have something?
Matt, does the town have a policy for the minimum number of hours before we install ice in an arena? That warrants it?
Yes, through Councillor Elliott, we typically like to aim for 40 hours a week for after Thanksgiving. That said, with respect to Palmerston, we've traditionally started it early, so minor hockey could do power skating, and with the introduction of that Norwell hockey program, it wouldn't be possible if we didn't put the ice in. So usually with Palmerston, with the amount of other groups that come to get a head start on skating, we meet that threshold of 40. So we aim for 40.
So to warrant putting it into Hairston or even Clifford, if we look on the calendar for bookings, that would tell us the hours that are booked, or?
Through Councillor Elliott, the facility scheduler module is not updated as of yet. We're just finalizing schedules. So what you'll see on there is a little bit of minor hockey, and I think I put the Minto 81s in for a few hours rental. So at this point, we're sitting around 100 hours overall.
Wow.
So if we distributed that equally, it'd be about 50 per building right now.
Thank you.
Councillor Gutson.
Thanks, Councillor Elliott. The one question was the impacted groups, Matt, but we spoke, did you have any more conversations about possibly putting outdoor ice rink in the impacted area? Has there been conversation about that, and is it possible?
Well, it's definitely possible. If we get a February like we did this past year, where we had a nice little polar vortex come in, that'd be something we'd like to reach out to some of the groups in Clifford to see if they'd be interested in helping us with that, whether it's a service club or other group. But we're definitely open to suggestions. With respect to some of the floor sports, they went okay last year. The uptake wasn't, it was decent until say late November, but certainly for outdoors, which is, yeah, we're open to suggestions.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Yes, Mayor Bridge.
Yeah, great comments, everybody. And I think just the feeling I got from the council, and I think good job on your committee, Councillor Elliott and Matt, working through these problems we're going to have. Like, let's be hopeful that with the proper vaccination and the proper use of with fully vaccinated people coming into the buildings and everything else, that we can keep moving forward. And I'm hopeful that we'll get Clifford open this year. I understand Councillor Gunson, it'd be nice if they don't open, then maybe we throw a outdoor rink, but you never know with our weather. I did look at the Aldermac, and they did say that it could be a wet, miserable winter, which I don't mean what that means. I don't know, wet in snow or wet in
You wouldn't have to flood.
anyways, let's work towards trying to do as much as we can. People need this outlet, so even if we have to run at a little bit of a loss, I understand Councilor McKenzie, and you used to be a facility manager, and I know the number of hours and the number of dollars that you have to do with these arenas is very important. But let's try to work together and see if we can do as much as possible to try to keep our facilities open as long as possible and as many as possible. So keep an eye on it. We're only in September, so I like the way it's working right now to get those 2 up and running possibly, and we've got enough hours for that. But let's hope we can get Clifford going again this year. That's all I'm saying. So, but we'll see what happens, and everybody's cooperated last year, and we'll see how it goes this year. So that's just my comments. Thank you.
Any other comments or thoughts on that? I have a couple of, talking about Clifford. Is it possible that we can provide some heat in that arena? At one time, I know the cost wouldn't be much more than what it would be for ice, but or probably as much, but maybe that's a possibility, that then we can keep pickleball and indoor ball and maybe some soccer of some sort, so people would practice all summer. I'm sure it would go over. I know pickleball is a big thing right now. You're getting good turnout for that. And it's quite a possibility we could draw from other communities and maybe afford to keep that open if you can get some heat in there, Matt. I'm not sure how that works.
Well, yeah, what we found last year, Councillor Elliott, was with the Hairston Curling Club not having a season. When we were in Orange and team sports were permitted, we ran pickleball in there in November and February. It got down to about 10 to 12 degrees, which when you first step in there is on the chilly side, but once you get moving around, it was actually more comfortable than what the temperatures were this summer. So it surprisingly didn't get as cold as what I thought it would.
Should we investigate the possibility of heaters for?
Can certainly look into it. Yeah.
This may be the future, and maybe the future we can only put 2 ice surfaces in forever and ever, amen, and make Clifford a spot for the place to go for your summer sports or fall sports. And heaters might be even if we can keep it at, above 10, and even in the middle of winter, I'm sure it would go over, and I'm sure we'd have some kind of participation, and I think the Clifford group would be proud to have something like that. So it's something we could maybe look into, maybe do a report to council. Good. Council or Deputy Mayor Turton.
And you talked about thank you, Councillor Elliott. You talked about the curling clubs. Has anybody said anything from either of the clubs? Anything happening in Palmerston or Hairston this winter?
Yeah, through Councillor Elliott, from what we understand, both clubs will plan to run their season at full capacity. Whereas last year, I think there was a group from Hairston that went and curled in Palmerston one night a week. They both want to be back to 2019 levels.
Yeah, and again, I just want to go back and I agree with Councillor Elliott saying. I think the staff has been trying to come up with all kinds of options going forward, depending on where we end up with this pandemic going forward. And I think we have to keep our options open. I know, Derek, if you want to speak to that, but we've talked about it, department heads and whatever, that, like, it's great to say, well, we could do this and that, whatever. I think we've got to do is have some contingency plans depending on where we go and how many people can get it. If we have an uptick in this 4th wave and we have to shut it down again, that's a problem. But if we can move forward, maybe there's options. So that was the other question. Thanks, Deputy Mayor Turton, about the curling clubs, because I meant to ask that when I did my thing. But the curling clubs is another one. So those are facilities that we have to deal with as well. So I know, Derek, I think what the council is sort of saying is, you know, keep our eye on the ball and bring options when we need to back to the council to make sure that we run as many facilities as possible and as well as possible, I would assume.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge, through you to Chair Elliott. So the short answer is absolutely. Absolutely, we want to make sure that our facilities are used, and the Clifford Arena is no different. We'll investigate some possibilities. I think what Matt is trying to describe is that September's still a little early given where we are in the whole situation. And we want to try to be flexible as possible as this thing moves. So we want to leave every door possible open to utilize the facility. So, you know, I think what Matt is saying is we'll probably have a better idea come probably mid-October where we are with usage. And then from there, we can react to adapting Clifford to potentially something. We don't know yet. All through this COVID now, 18, 19 months, you know, one thing we're getting really good at is adjusting on the fly to everything possible. So nothing's out of the question, nothing we haven't looked at. And certainly, you know, we'll continue to do that, and council can be assured that we will continue to do that. So.
Thanks. Another possibility is we could have a kind of a golf driving range. God knows a lot of you guys need that in the winter time to get.
Well, I'll be for a golf simulator in there. We can make that happen tomorrow.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, anybody not in favor of the motion? Then that's carried, and I'll turn it back to Mayor Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you.
I lost half my screen there for a second. Okay, I'll turn it over to our economic development and Belinda for her report.
Yep, thanks, Mayor Bridge. Yep, so this is related to the sale price of municipal industrial land. This is probably, I think, the fourth time that we have reviewed our prices. And as you can see from the maps that were included, we are essentially out of service land. We are in the process of taking a 1.7 acre parcel back in Palmerston, and we do have some unserviced land in Hairston available. So this is what has triggered this specific increase to the sale price of land. And as you can see in my report, a lot of municipalities are in the same boat as us in terms of running out of land, being at capacity, developing more land, trying to figure out what they're going to charge. So it's hard to find a good comparison of where we should be at. Also of note is all around the development charges, where municipalities around us at the north end anyway don't have any municipal or county development charges. So it's always something we consider in being competitive. And essentially where we have landed then is charging or recommending that we charge $35,000 an acre for unserviced land and $60,000 an acre for unserviced or for serviced land. And then pending us looking at any future development, this would obviously need to be readjusted and reevaluated for that because prices continue to rise, and we would want to probably be in line closer to where those costs are, but that's what we're proposing right now, as it only impacts a small number of properties. If there's any questions?
Questions? Great report, Belinda, and it's yeah, it's too bad we don't have more land to sell, but that's the way it is. So I think it is time to reevaluate. So I don't see any questions, so I'll read the moved by Councillor Gudson, second by Deputy Mayor Turret. The Council of Town of Minto receives the September 7th, 2021 report from the Director of Economic Community Development regarding the sale price of municipal industrial land and approves the sale price of on-service industrial land at $35,000 an acre and $60,000 an acre for serviced. Anybody opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, and I'll turn it over. No, I have one more. Oh, yes, yes, this is one I've been waiting for. And I'll turn it over to Terry, who's on the phone there. Terry, go ahead. Are you doing this?
Yep, I'm doing this one. Is my presentation up on the screen, perhaps?
Yeah, just came up. We're good.
Okay, perfect. So this is definitely a good news report. Things are looking good in 2021. As you'll see on my slides, I did include 2019-2020 stats, just to give a pre-COVID, COVID, and then hopefully this is what we call a post-COVID kind of outlook. So our permit numbers are strong with 184 issued to date. And yeah, we only issued about 100 to date last year at this point. In terms of construction value, it is extremely strong. So we've issued about 30.5 million worth of construction value, which is really surprising considering how tough it is for some contractors to source various materials. Our strongest sector growth is the residential build. So we're sitting at almost 20 million compared to 12 and 7 in the previous couple of years. So everyone seems to be wanting to move to Minto, which is awesome. My highlights include 55 new residential dwelling units to date. Council will probably recall that our forecast growth over the next 30 years is sitting around 60 units. So we're going to be exceeding what our forecasted growth is, which is great, and which is why we expanded the Palmerston urban boundary as well. So the most development for residential has occurred in Palmerston with 35 new units. And I just want to mention that this is to the end of July. August and September are growing strong as well. So this trend we're seeing isn't slowing down. Major additions that we have to industrial buildings, one up in Clifford, and that's about a 93,000 square foot addition to W.C. Smith. And then TG Minto is seeing a 36,000 square foot addition going up on it. The pictures that we have on the bottom left, that is taken on Noble Family Road. And the building on the right, which is being framed up, is the one that council sold to J&A DeFries construction out of Listowel area. And on the right, there is a lovely picture of the rehabilitated Crown building in Palmerston. So those were kind of nice. On the next slide, I've got 3 pictures there of TG Minto. So the top left is Bridge Crescent, which is constructed or built out, except for the one commercial lot on the right-hand side there. And then a couple of different pictures of Stevenson Way. The one in the top right was taken about a month and a half ago, and that building that I was in is the one with gray siding on the left-hand side on the bottom picture. So you can see from across the road just the speed of the growth in Palmerston, how quickly they're building those buildings out. In the next slide, the picture on the left is Henry Street. So this is Dan Sinclair's development with the 3 and 4-plex on the left and then 2 semis on the right. Happy to announce that we've received a permit application for the first building going on the internal road. So it's awesome that that one is proceeding. The picture on the right, I'm kind of a little bit of a nerd, so I took this one. It's the net zero house that's going up on Bridge Crescent. And those gray pipes, it was the first that I've ever seen those. And what it is a high velocity HVAC system. So it's a totally different style than you would typically see in a conventional house. So, and that is pretty much it, unless there's any questions for me.
Great. Thanks, Terry. Any questions? There we go back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
Deputy
you,
Mayor.
yeah, thank you, Mayor Bridge. So Terry I mean, it's not just happening here. What about Hanover and Wingham? You know, we know that things are booming in North Wellington North and North Perth. Is it really happening north of us, northwest, I guess, north?
It's actually happening everywhere. I've been on some meetings all across the province, and there hasn't been, or everyone's busy. Everyone is seeing this residential boom except for the GTA area because everyone's kind of leaving. So yeah, everyone's finding that our prices are a little bit more affordable than in Toronto, and people can work from home. So yeah, cuts down on their commute, and they get a brand new house out of it.
Okay. Anybody else? No, thanks, Terry. Great report, and it's nice to see everybody's working hard. And yeah, I just think once the supply chain gets better, I think it'll even go faster. So again, we have to be prepared for it. That's why it was great on this council and thinking about putting more area into the urban boundary in Palmerston, and that works. That's going to work out well for us. So good luck in going forward. And again, good stuff. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I guess moved by Councillor Dirksen and second by Councillor Elliott. The council receives the year-to-date review from the Director of Building and Planning Services for information. Anybody opposed? Carried. Good. Turned over to Deputy Mayor Turton to take over for the Treasury Department. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah,
Turton.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to welcome our treasurer, Mr. Duff, and I see Mr. Potter's on as well. Welcome, you guys. We're going to talk today about our minutes of settlement and the assessment adjustments. Gord, so would you mind just jumping right in?
Sure. Thanks, Chair Turton. Yeah, we've got a couple of them. The first one is by far the biggest. So these are minutes of settlement, and these are when MPAC has looked at a property or someone has appealed. And the first batch, it's mostly changing the assessment classification, whether it's between commercial and farm or that. Sometimes they actually do a site visit and then they determine that no, something's being misclassified or misvalued. So we've got that going on. Also, an interesting one, there's a few years ago, they brought in a new construction class for multi-residential. So here we have one where the landlord renovated the building. And so it's taken out of the old multi-res and into the new multi-res, which is taxed at a lower rate, again, to encourage more affordable housing. And we have 16 on this one of kind of called them the FTRT flips. That's where a farmland or sometimes it's a wetland may change hands or something, and it goes to residential tax class. And as you know, that's what we have to bill on, whichever's in the return roll. And then it goes back to its proper classification, which is farmland or managed forest or exempt. And unfortunately, that adds up to some big dollars in tax losses on our books because we bill at the higher rate and then we have to adjust back. So those are the main highlights of this report. And is there any questions?
So we'll, where are we here? The recommendation is that moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor McKenzie, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the September 7th, 2021 report from the Treasurer and Revenue Coordinator regarding assessment adjustments and that these adjustments be approved. Is there questions for our Treasurer? Go ahead, Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Chair Dave. Gord, is it too early to tell what kind of a loss we're going to incur with these adjustments?
Well, with these ones, our share, so that's the general column. So that's 25,900. And if you recall back in budget discussions, I usually have 50, I think we've got as high as 80,000 in there. And that's generally what this is for, because we know there's going to be something. And if you remember some of the early county reports, that this problem was particularly acute this year, the whole farmland residential issue.
Thanks, Gord.
Sure.
Other questions for our Treasurer, Mayor Bridge?
Just on the one that Gordon mentioned, and I think Council will be happy about this one, is we did give some money back because somebody was building some multi-residential, and that was the whole idea of why we dropped that rate down, Gord, was to get people, give more incentive to do it. And going forward, I think you're going to see more incentives coming out of the housing group that's looking at how do we get attainable and affordable housing. So we may be seeing other stuff like this, but that was a early on days, and it was kind of a weird situation. I do recall, Gord, that it was kind of funny. People were actually changing how many units just so that they didn't end up with, which was costing them. They could do a unit cheaper, but they weren't going to the next size of units because they were getting nailed higher for taxes. So it was something the county looked at and at the municipal level as well brought up. So I think that's good news in a way, Deputy Mayor Turton, but unfortunately it hit us this time. But I think that's a good news thing to pay back. So if we can continue to get that multi-residential housing up, that'd be great for rental.
Yeah, helps our housing and affordability.
Yeah, certainly over time, when we get more of these multi-reses up, why there's going to be a payback. So other questions for our friend, our Treasurer Duff? So is there anybody against this motion? You're seeing none, it's passed. And let's move along to section 357, the applications, Gord.
Sure, so a lot fewer of them, and these are relatively simple. They're basically barns that were removed and the assessment is reduced accordingly. Our share for this one's only $58, so much less.
So thank you, Treasurer Duff. So recommendation then, moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that the Council of the Town of Minto receives the August 2021 report from the Treasurer and Revenue Coordinator regarding section 357 applications, and that these applications be approved. Questions for Gord? I mean, it's the big issue here is removing the buildings. It's not what you're saving in taxes. So if there's no questions for Gord, is there anybody against this motion? Seeing none, then it's passed. And thank you, Treasurer Duff, and I'll pass it back to our Mayor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Turton. And next up, we have Quinn's going to do a coordination legislation, human resources services pay policy update and market check. And we do this from time to time, and it's time for us to do it again. So Derek, are you tag teaming on this, or is it just Quinn going on it?
This is all Quinn's good work here.
All right. Okay, Quinn, go ahead. There's a report, and you want to present it to us. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, so we do a pay equity and market check usually every 5 years under our pay administration policy. And it's just to make sure that our compensation levels are in the 50th percentile, like the median of all the comparator municipalities, and to make sure that we are achieving the 3 categories of pay equity, so internal, external, and statutory. Under this policy, we're actually due to complete a market check in 2022 to be implemented in 2023. However, in discussions with CAO Thompson and the Deputy Treasurer, we are recommending that we undergo this process 1 year early, just based on the amount of restructuring and reorganization we've done in the last little while. And we're also recommending a review of our group benefits. This is a pretty significant factor when people are looking to change jobs, and it's something that I get questioned on a lot when we're doing recruitment, what sort of benefits we offer and whether or not our package is comparable to other municipalities that we compete with in the labor market. So the working group for the market check would be CAO Thompson, Deputy Treasurer Potter, and myself. And we got together and picked 15 comparator municipalities based on the 4 criteria that are listed in the report. And after all of the work is done by our human resource consultants, we would bring all of that information and recommendations back to council, and the final decision for implementation would be up to you. So they have provided us with a work plan on how to complete this before the end of the year, as well as a quote, which is included in the report. And those funds are available in the 2021 operating budget that was approved last year. So I can answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Quinn. Any questions? Councilor McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quinn, when was the last time there has been a review?
We completed a compensation review in 2017 that was implemented then in 2018, so about 4 years ago.
Thanks.
Anybody else? I think Quinn, an excellent report and laid it out nicely. And I like the 15 comparators that you've got there. That's important. And we worked with the company before, so you know how good their work is. So I really looking forward to getting it back to make sure that we are in the ballpark. And you're right, we've changed a lot of different titles. We've done a lot of different things. This would be nice to get it all kind of put back together and for this council to have a look at it by the end of the year. That's just super. Okay, and I've got a resolution here. Where we got it right here. Moved by Deputy Mayor Turton, second by Councilor Anderson. The Council of Town of Minto receives the report of the Coordinator of Legislative and Human Resources Services dated September 7th, 2021 regarding the pay equity and compensation review. Further, the Council of Town of Minto approves the comparable municipalities outlining this report. Further, the town award the pay equity and compensation review to Ward and Up to Grove in the amount of $14,560, excluding HST. All in favor? I'm sorry, anybody opposed? Messed you up there. Anybody opposed? Okay, no, carried. Thank you, Quinn. And I guess we're sitting there at public meeting time, Annalene, right?
So through you, Mayor Bridge, we do still have other business disclosed as additional items first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's right there. And I was the one that said I had one, right? So anybody else got anything? Okay, I'll do mine. Mine was just, and I did send a note out to people are involved, but great job on I wasn't able to be at the fair parade. That was the stationary parade in Palmerston, but I really liked our float. Our float it was good. It was all laid out nicely, and I watched the group start making it in at the office, and they did a great job. And just before the students were leaving, they all got them to help and get it done. And again, what a great talent they have, Paul, there. And if you get out to the chamber, you'll see he's already got his fall scene thing set up. He's jumped the gun, I think, a little bit. I was hoping fall wasn't here yet, but he's got his fall scene at the town office at there already. So it's great to have him on board with his talent. And I thanked him on your behalf that he did a nice job. And I know some of the other councillors had also thanked him as well. So that's all I had. Anybody else got anything? Councillor Elliott.
I thought of it and I'd forgotten about it, but anyhow, as you know, our Lions Club and me personally, we rent our town facility downtown, the Lions Club CNR building. And it's been warning since that vaccine schedule came out, our policy that people would have to be double vaccinated to go into the building. We rent it. Will it be the responsibility of the people renting it to ask the people coming in, or is that going to be the responsibility of the town? Or who's going to take that responsibility?
So we had that discussion this morning in our EOC meeting, and maybe turn it over to Derek to maybe give you an update as to what we're looking at. Go ahead, Derek.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor Elliott. So Councillor Elliott, as you know, we're still short on some details around how the actual provincial vaccine, proof of vaccine is going to be implemented. So we're doing a couple things. One is that we believe it's the responsibility of the owner of the facility to ensure that people that are entering the facility are double vaccinated as laid out by the provincial legislation. However, that all being said, we're working with our community groups right now to see how best we can support each other in that endeavor. So we're having some meetings with our community groups, and of course that would include the Lions, and how we work together to ensure that we're meeting the mandate of the province, but also understanding that there's some vulnerabilities to our user groups if they're the ones at the front line asking people for proof of vaccination. So we've got sort of two pieces to this puzzle. One is the effective date of the province's mandate is September 22nd. But as we understand it, there's no mechanism for that until October 22nd. So that being said, it may be hard copy only. And so we're still trying to work our way through that. However, as we discussed at ELC this morning, we're going to start to meet with our community groups to see how best we support each other in that mandate. So,
Yeah, in questioning that, there's supposedly fines if they don't follow the mandate, and also I'm not sure how we're going to. I guess that's something we got to work out, how we're going to greet them at the door, and what to do if somebody refuses and such like that. That'll be all what you're going to try and work out with our community, Eric.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Elliott. Yeah, there's definitely some logistical challenges how we're going to deal with this. You know, we talked a little bit about how we might do that, whether it's a pre-screening process through the renter. It's just too early to nail it down, quite frankly, but we're continuing to work through it to see how we best come up with a solution that's going to work for all of us. So,
can you give us some advice how we'd go about asking our Lions Club members if they've been vaccinated, for example?
Well, I think the circumstances are different for each group and how you want to meet. And quite honestly, the group, the Lions Club, probably has to make a determination through their own bylaws whether they want to enact a vaccine policy or not.
Okay.
I think that would be probably a conversation at the Lions Club, whether you want to enact a policy to be able to create that for your members or not. I can't advise you on that.
Okay.
Many places are doing many different things. So.
Yeah, and I think and that's what the discussion was this morning, until we get some bit more clarification, we're looking at our angles and trying to get with our user groups to figure out how we're going to do it. The 22nd when it comes into play. And I think you'll get more direction coming from all sides on this, Councillor Elliott. But in your case, unfortunately, the Lions Club meet in our building. So whatever our building rules will be what you'll have to go by and deal with that.
So currently all meeting spaces and conference centers have to abide by the provincial legislation.
Okay.
And our theaters do and all that stuff. So we even talked about the Norgan and other things. So we'll get back to you and we'll find out as quick as we can. And we're working on all the different angles. But
I think
at the end of the day, it's what the government is. The government finally came through and said, that in my own personal opinion, that if 80% of the people are double vaxxed and there's only 20, the 20 that aren't double vaxxed will be in a little different situation than the people that are vaxxed. And they will be able to do some things, they won't be able to do other things. And the government's come out and said that now, and now we have to follow up, unfortunately, with it. And there's other things, enforcement is another issue and all these other things. So we'll work with the other levels of government, the county and the province to try to figure this out. And our user groups for sure. And Derek's right on. We want to talk to our user groups and feel how comfortable they are with how they're going to do it. And I know some of the sporting organizations have come up with some policies and other things. So it's really fluid right now and we need to narrow it down, but we're on it.
So we're looking forward to some kind of conversation, I think, in the future. And I think all the user groups are up in the air with it. So I appreciate that the town's moving forward with this, and we'll get back to everybody and what they think should happen.
Yeah, that's why we had our EOC this morning. Yeah. Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So basically, Annaline, we're back up at 5.
That's correct, Mayor Bridge, through you. We will recess until 5 p.m. We will leave it open so people can join. So please make sure you mute and shut off your cameras and then come back just before 5 p.m.
Yeah, try to come back about 5 too, if that's all right with everybody, just so we get up and organized in case we have any glitches or whatever. And then we'll go from there. Okay, thanks everybody. Thank you, and we're back in recording. And I just want to make, before I do the public meeting announcement, I'll make another public announcement. We're just getting some kind of nasty weather warnings. So as you know, we're on Zoom. And if we happen to lose too many people, or we have to bunker down, I guess, or whatever, hunker down, we'll have to do this at another time, but we definitely will try to get through the public meetings and the other rest of the schedule. But I don't want anybody, if you see anything or if you feel uncomfortable, you have to go to a basement or something like that, by all means go. And we'll go from there. Okay. So we have a public meeting, and this is for ZBA 2021-8 Galaxy Homes, Clare Ridge Estates. And I'll act as the chair of the public meeting, and I will call the meeting to order, and Clerk McRobb to ensure that any members of the public present is recorded on the attendance record. I believe, Anna, you get the people that are online recorded.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and I will state the following. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the town of Minto before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the town of Minto to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and the persons or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the tribunal unless the opinion of the board there is reasonable grounds to do so. I'll ask Clerk McRobb to state the following.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The property subject of the revised draft plan of subdivision file 23T 90021 and the zoning bylaw amendment is located on part of park lot 16 to 18, part 2, 61R 10737, town of Palmerston, town of Minto. The purpose and effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the lands from residential R1B to residential R2. The amendment is required to facilitate the proposed red line revision to the draft plan of subdivision 23T 90021. The zoning bylaw amendment will result in the creation of 24 single detached units and 16 semi-detached units. In 2017, the draft plan was approved, which proposed 27 single detached lots and a stormwater management block. A stormwater management area and parkland are also proposed as part of the overall revisions. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. There are details of the proposed revision stated on our agenda. The notices were mailed to the property owner within 400 feet or 120 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, and posted on the subject property on August 13th, 2021. Comments have been received by the County of Wellington, Bell Canada, Upper Grand District School Board, Wellington Source Water Protection, Hydro One, Wellington Catholic District School Board. These comments are attached, as well as the County of Wellington Planning Report, and comments from the town of Minto, from the planner of the County of Wellington, and Chris Clark, a principal engineer from Triton Engineering. And back to you, Mayor Bridge.
Thank you, Annaleen. And I'll call on Matthew, our county planner, to give his report. Go ahead, Matthew.
Perfect. Thanks. Thank you. And good evening, members of council and the public. So before you today is a zoning bylaw amendment seeking to rezone the subject lands from residential R1B to residential R2. The purpose of this meeting today is really to go over the proposed revisions to the draft plan of subdivision and the associated zoning bylaw amendment. Furthermore, to allow an opportunity for the community as well as residents and council to ask questions and seek additional information from the developers as well as their consultants. So just to provide a high level overview of the background of these lands. So originally they were draft approved in 1997 and have been through a number of iterations as well as some severances to arrive at the most recent draft approved plan in 2017, which now proposed for 27 detached units, a stormwater management block, and a future development block. Sorry, that was the plan in 2017. So now the subject lands are in the process, of being sold, hence the application before you today. And the proposed revisions now include 24 single detached units, 16 semis, a stormwater management block, and now a park block. So just to provide a high level overview of some of the policies. So the subject lands are designated residential in the county official plan and currently zoned residential R1B in the Minto zoning bylaw. The applicants have submitted a zone amendment to rezone the subject lands from R1B to R2, as previously mentioned, ultimately to facilitate the proposed semi-detached units and the 12-meter lot frontages. One more note to add. So in light of the public comments and further review of the proposed revisions, the county will be requesting a traffic study from the applicant's consultants. And just to wrap up and provide sort of some next steps in terms of sort of the process and how things will go about. So following the public meeting today, staff will finalize the review of the proposed revisions to the draft plan and zoning bylaw. We will report back to council at a later date with the proposed revisions based on tonight's discussion and seek council endorsement on the revised draft plan and include conditions at that time. So once draft approval is complete by the county, an amending zoning bylaw will be provided for council's consideration. And with that said, I know Galaxy Homes is in attendance tonight, as well as their consultants GSP Group. And they've prepared a presentation this evening, so I'll pass the floor off to them, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Matthew, and we'll hold our questions to the end. So I do have, I believe, Evan, did you want to introduce your crew and who's going to be presenting?
Sure. I'm Evan Whitman, a planner with GSP Group. I'm joined by Steve Weaver, also a planner with GSP Group, and he will be going through the presentation this evening.
Thanks, Evan, and thank you, Mayor Bridge and members of council for allowing us the opportunity to speak tonight. And thank you, Matthew, for your presentation. We do have a presentation that we've submitted. I have it here on a screen, but I see that staff are already sharing it. That's great. Thank you very much for that. And I'll just ask when I would like you to advance the slide, and if you could advance to that one, that would be great. So my name is Steve Weaver. I'm an associate and a senior planner with planning and urban design firm GSP Group in Kitchener. And Evan has introduced himself, and we are here acting on behalf of Galaxy Fine Homes as the proposed home builder and developer of the subdivision, the Clare Ridges subdivision in Palmerston. Next slide. So a few things we'd like to accomplish with our presentation. We'll try to keep it brief, but we do want to provide a bit of an overview of the proposed plan and the revisions as that compares with the previously approved plan from 2017, as well as conformity of the plan with provincial and county planning frameworks. And importantly, an overview of the zoning bylaw amendment application, which really is the subject of the public meeting and the requirements of the Planning Act to hold a public meeting. And relate this as well back to the local community character in Palmerston and how the proposed plan integrates with that existing character and built up area of Palmerston. And then listen to your comments and do our best to answer any questions that arise in tonight's meeting. And next slide, please. So just a little bit about Galaxy Fine Homes, our client. Galaxy is a Guelph-based full-service custom home construction company. They have been serving the Southern Ontario area since 2015. So a relatively new company, but have established a bit of a track record, including some developments in Guelph, as well as a development in Harriston on Alora Street. Galaxy has received many inquiries specifically about semi-detached housing and opportunities for that in Palmerston. And so that has led in part to the inclusion of that housing type in the proposed plan in response to some of the market demands and inquiries that Galaxy has received to date. And next slide. So I think you're familiar with the location of the site. It's was addressed in Matthew's presentation, and this has been in front of council previously when the plan was draft approved in 2017. So the total area of the site's a little over 8 acres. It's currently vacant. An initial part of the plan was previously developed. One lot was severed at Prospect Street, and built as the first lot in the development. And then the 4 lots moving north from there have also now been registered and built as single detached dwellings. So the balance of the plan is remaining as vacant and would extend from that existing built portion. And next slide, please. So the process to date started with the draft plan of subdivision, which was approved in October of 2017. That's actually a revised plan that dates back to the 90s. So this plan and the site and how it may develop has evolved over time. I will note that with these types of processes and subdivision planning in general, there can be some concern about changes and how changes can be made once a plan is approved. There is a point in time where a plan gets registered, and generally there aren't extensive changes beyond that point. But when a plan of subdivision is just draft approved, it really isn't a final plan that has established the lotting of the site yet. And there is a process under the Planning Act to amend that plan, to actually change the lotting, change the housing types, change the density. So all of this is not uncommon. It is quite common that these draft plans of subdivision change after their initial approvals. And some of that's in response to market demand and some flexibility needed there to adapt to changing market conditions, housing types that people prefer. Other policy changes and that kind of thing can influence how these plans come to be in their final form through various revisions. I've talked about the initial 5 houses that have already been built. Galaxy is in the process of securing the land from the owner who actually got the draft approval in 2017. So as part of that process, Galaxy is seeking to revise the plan further. The revisions really seek to add additional density and respond to the market and the needs that have been identified through that initial inquiry with Galaxy and some of their due diligence on the property. And it does require a zoning bylaw amendment along with those plan revisions in order to permit semi-detached dwellings as a permitted dwelling type on this property. And next slide, please. So here's the original plan of subdivision. You can see that, oh, apologies, I'm just getting the emergency alert, as I'm sure many others are on your phones. Sorry about that. So there were a total of 28 lots in the original plan. That was reduced by 1 when lot 1 was severed and separated from the plan. So there still are 28 units that would result from the draft plan from 2017. You can see all of the lots are very similar in size, similar frontages, and similar depths. The street pattern is just a street that loops back on itself. And the goal of Galaxy was really just to make better use of the land and try and make this development more efficient, respond to those market demands that I was talking about for additional housing types and semis in particular, without changing the fundamental layout of the plan. So keeping the street as it is, keeping the stormwater management configuration and the servicing layout as it is, but also adding a park block. So instead of those 3 future lots identified here as 30, 31, and 32, replacing that with the opportunity to add some parkland in the development as well. And that's something we'll review further with town staff to determine if a park is desired in this location or if that land could be reserved for other purposes. Next slide, please. So this is the proposed revised plan. You can see it still includes a number of single detached dwellings with a range of 12 to about 15 meter frontages. So the 12 meter frontage is based on the proposed rezoning to R2, and 12 is the minimum lot frontage. So it's about 40 feet, a little more than 40 feet, up to 15 meters, which is about 50 feet. So narrower than, certainly narrower than the original allotting, but still predominantly single detached around the outside of the development. The idea was to respond to the market demand for semis and add in another dwelling type, and also make more efficient use of the land by relotting the center of the development for semi-detached units. So you can see there are some solid lines in there which would represent where a pair of units would be located in each of those lots. And then the dashed lines indicate where the center lot line would go between those attached units. So a semi-detached dwelling is not a vastly different dwelling type than single detached. It just simply means that two homes are connected together on one side. The other side of each of those homes are not connected to another home. And there's a center lot line. So each home on each side of the lot line is still separately owned. There's not like a common property that they share. They still, each home has its own property. Often the driveways are paired in a semi-detached home, but the look of semi-detached homes from the street is very similar to single detached. And it just allows, by eliminating that side yard on one side and attaching the homes, it reduces the amount of land required, and you can actually achieve a more efficient development that way. I will just add as well that single and semi-detached homes are quite commonly found together, and we do see that elsewhere in Palmerston as well. One and two unit dwellings and even 3-unit dwellings can coexist quite well together and don't look significantly different in terms of their built form. So we do think that is a compatible mix of housing units. Both are low density housing type. And next slide, please. So just to recap the proposed plan, so it would introduce semi-detached dwellings with a total of 16 units, which would increase the total units in the development to 40 units. There is a slight reduction in the number of single detached dwellings from 27 to 24. But the overall layout of the development would be substantially the same, with the road network and the stormwater pond maintained, and that the future development blocks would be reallocated for park space. And on to the next slide. So when considering these types of applications, there are really various consistency and conformity tests that have to be met. So the first is that the proposal has to be consistent with the provincial policy statement, or PPS. And the other document that applies here at the provincial level is the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. And an application such as this has to conform with the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, or the growth plan as we've referred to it here. So the PPS is a broad policy document. It applies to planning matters throughout the province. And it gives us some important direction that the province has set as it relates to housing specifically in the province. And it tells us that municipalities, when considering these applications, that there must be an appropriate range and mix of housing options and densities. Planning for just one housing type, one housing size isn't the way forward, that we need to plan for a variety of needs and consider the market-based needs and how to improve affordability through increasing density as one example of a way to reduce the cost of housing. The PPS also supports residential intensification, redevelopment, and new residential development that minimizes the cost of housing in a compact form. So again, making the most of the limited land resources and the servicing that is available by maximizing density within an appropriate scale and within a local context are important considerations. So we feel that the plan has really balanced those objectives, adding some additional housing options, increasing the density somewhat, making more efficient use of the land, but still respecting that there is a local scale of development, which is low density, and a character of Palmerston that this plan should respect. In the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, which applies to a specific region of the province, including Wellington County, the site is a greenfield area. And that simply means that there's a density target that applies to new development in that area. The minimum density target for the area in Palmerston is 40 residents per hectare. So this would actually meet and exceed that minimum, which is a good thing because it helps the community and the county as a whole to meet that density target. It's measured across the entire greenfield area in the municipality as well as in the county as a whole. But the previous 2017 plan fell short. So it really didn't conform with the growth plan. And that's one of the key rationales, to actually increase the density of the plan to actually conform with the growth plan. Okay, next slide, please. The next set of policies that these applications have to conform to are at the Wellington County official plan level, which also serves as your local official plan in Minto. So the existing land use designation for the site is residential. And obviously this is a residential plan of subdivision. So this is the type of land use that the designation is intended for. It conforms with that designation. The designation permits both single and semi-detached building forms. So again, the proposed plan conforms with what the county official plan permits. And finally, the official plan notes that single detached housing is the expected housing type, but also that semi-detached housing is necessary to provide further variety. And that's really what the objective is here with the addition of the semi-detached units and to optimize the use of the site. And next slide, please. There are some density targets and minimums set in the county official plan as well. And that is working towards achieving that density target of 40 people and jobs per hectare. So the minimum density set out in the county OP is 16 units per gross hectare. And the original 2017 plan was 10.4 units per hectare. This revised plan would bring that up to almost 15 units per hectare. So not quite maximizing the density according to the county official plan direction, but getting closer to that number. And next slide, please. So that brings us to the zoning amendment. The zoning bylaw amendment application is simply to change the zoning of the site, the remaining area to be developed, from R1B, which only permits single detached dwellings, to R2, which permits both single detached dwellings with 12-meter lot frontages and semi-detached dwellings. Next slide, please. So how has this been integrated with the existing character? In developing the proposed revised subdivision plan, we did consider carefully what the current character of the neighborhood and the area, the community is more broadly, in terms of the housing types and the lot sizes, the dwelling heights and that kind of thing. So there is currently in Palmerston, a good mix of primarily single detached and semi-detached dwellings. That includes a mix of single-story bungalow and two-story built forms. You can see that character established through recent developments along Milton, Cellar, Crescent, Bridge Crescent, and with the mix of semi-detached, single-detached, and even some townhouse units in those areas. The existing lot frontages and sizes vary across Palmerston, so there are 12-meter lots elsewhere in Palmerston and ranging up to 16 meters. And you can observe those lot sizes on Derby, Raglan, York Streets, Miller Crescent, and in newer developments that are identified in the first bullet there. There are some larger, more estate-sized lots as well, and certainly there is a demand for that, but it is important to ensure that we're not just planning a one-size-fit-all type of lot offering in Palmerston, that there is a range of needs for people across the demographic spectrum, from first-time home buyers, to seniors looking to downsize. Semi-detached dwellings and smaller lots can certainly help to accommodate those needs. We also just wanted to point out is there have been some concerns raised about compatibility. That compatibility doesn't mean the same as. In other words, a 50-foot or 60-foot single detached building lot is not incompatible with a 40-foot single detached building lot. Now, a 40-foot single detached building lot is not incompatible with a semi-detached building lot. That those are all low density forms of housing, and they are typically found in similar areas and can all coexist quite well together with complementary built forms and dwelling styles and heights. And next slide, please. So just to illustrate that, we've identified 4 areas that we've in the existing community that really illustrate the type, size, and unit mix found in Palmerston currently, where there are comparable lot sizes and built form, just to get a sense of the existing community character of residential neighborhoods. So if you go to the next slide, there's a series of aerial photos and pictures that we provided. This is an example of some comparably sized single detached building lots along Raglan Street, not far from the site, just to the northwest. And on to the next slide. The Milton Cellar Crescent development has a mix of single and semi-detached dwellings on the same street. And you can see the variety of lot sizes there. The white lines are the property lines. You can see there are some wider lots towards the back of the development, but there's a transition of density similar to what's proposed in Clare Ridges, where you have larger lots towards the outer part of the development. As you get towards the front of the development or in the middle, you get to the smaller lot sizes in the mix of semi-detached units. And on to the next slide. And again, you can find on Wellington and Prospect Streets a variety of dwelling types, lot sizes. It's not consistent one size fits all. There is quite a variety there in terms of the lot sizes and the type of housing, with single and semi-detached units identified in the area. And next slide. So just to put that in context with some street view images, you can see here's an example of a 15-meter lot on Milton Cellar Crescent with a single detached dwelling, and how that looks from the street. And on to the next slide. So an older version of a very similar size and style of home, but on a slightly smaller lot at 12 meters. And on to the next slide. Some townhouse dwellings on Milton Cellar. So you can see how those would not be too out of place with the 2 previous dwellings that were shown. Similar style. Yes, they are attached dwellings, but the building is not out of place with the other dwelling types in the neighborhood. And next slide. So here's an example of some semis, and you can see and get an appreciation for how those fit with single detached dwellings. It is attached in the middle, which is different than single detached, but the character and style is there. It fits with other single detached dwellings in the development, and a nice product can be delivered with semi-detached dwellings as well as single detached. And next slide. Another example of a semi, and you can continue on to the next one. I think you start to become redundant, but you get a feel for the character that's out there, that it's, and again, not just single story, there is 2-story examples of this, with an older example here on Miller Crescent of a semi-detached dwelling, 2-story in height. The next slide. Another example, 2-story semi-detached. And next slide, please. And some additional, a bit of a different look with these ones. There are no garages, but again, 2-story single detached, semi-detached dwellings on Prospect Street. Next slide. So to summarize, in our opinion, the proposed plan is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It conforms with the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe and conforms with the county official plan. It will provide the opportunity to reduce the cost of the housing units by adding more units, reducing the lot sizes, and adding variety in the housing types. And it is consistent with the prevailing character and variety of housing in the community. And on to the next slide. So that brings us to the Q&A. And as I say, we're really happy to help with answering any questions. We have reviewed and considered the comments that have come in so far, and commend residents who spent their time in reviewing the documents, the plans, and considering some of the applicable policies. I know some people put a real effort into reviewing, for example, the county official plan and some of the direction that it provides. And that can be a big task because some of the documents are quite long and complicated. Many of the comments related to traffic concerns, and has been noted, staff will be requesting a traffic study. That was not requested for a complete application when the application was filed and when pre-application was held, but we will take that direction back and discuss it with our client. We've summarized our opinion in terms of the PPS growth plan and the official plan and providing more efficient use of land. There were some concerns about things like snow storage and removal. We will note there would be very similar front yard setbacks, driveway spacing that will still accommodate those needs. There really haven't been any concerns identified through the circulation with county and town review of those matters. I think we've touched a lot on the small town character and integrating with that. There was a concern about flooding potential. That has been reviewed and there are no flood concerns identified. There will be a stormwater management facility that will ensure proper drainage from the streets and from the residential lots into a common stormwater management facility that will receive that runoff and then outlet it at a prescribed rate to the existing storm sewer system. And then I guess the last thing I'll just try and address in advance is there was a question about the servicing corridor identified on the plan. There will be the need to connect to the Derby Street right-of-way for both sanitary and water services. So that would be the purpose of that corridor, to provide water main looping over to Derby Street, and similarly to have an outlet for the sanitary sewer via that right-of-way. So I'll pause there, and Evan and I will work to answer any questions as you need us. Thank you.
So Mayor Bridge is no longer on. His internet has gone down. Deputy Mayor Turton has advised me that his hydro is off. And it also appears that Councillor Dirksen is no longer with us. Is Councillor Gunson with us?
Oh, yep, there is.
So although we do still have quorum, we will have to have a chair to finish this meeting. I did ask Mayor Bridge if there was something. He asked Dave to finish it. And of course, there is no Dave right now. So Derek, I'm not sure if you wanted to chair or have another member of council to chair the rest of the meeting.
Through you, Naomi. It would be protocol to have a member of council do it. However, my question is, how many of the delegations that registered are still with us?
So it does appear that some of them are still here. I did have two of them email me to advise me what they wanted to say if we were out of hydro or they did not have internet, because the storm is very powerful right now.
Yeah,
I'm back.
Oh, George is back.
I will.
I think I went to the basement because it was a little bit scary out there, I'll tell you. I wasn't sure what we had coming at us.
I will stand down.
I did send a little text just a second ago. So how far did you get along? I mean, I was just, Steve, you were almost done, I believe, when I lost my whole world here.
So through you, Mayor Bridge, Steve just completed his report, and now it's back to you to call on Ashley.
Yeah, okay, Ashley, go ahead. And hopefully it sounds like it might have just gone by me, but looks right now we're in a calm, so.
A little crazy here.
Right, Ashley.
So thank you. I believe Steve and Matt touched on pretty much everything. I did just want to note too that We did circulate the functional servicing report to our engineer as well. And they've reviewed the revisions for both the draft plan as well as the zoning bylaw amendment, and they're generally satisfied with the existing design. There will likely be a few minor details to be dealt with at the detailed design plan resubmission, which is standard practice for something like a development of this nature. So mainly any changes may be to do with lot grading and drainage, but from the engineering perspective, they're satisfied with the changes at this point in time.
Thanks, Ashley. And now we had quite a few people wanted to speak on. Hopefully they're all still able to, although Palmerston, if they're mostly in Palmerston, they'll have good internet, not like I do out here in the country. So I have a few people want to speak to this. And I'll just remind the people who have registered to speak that they have a limited amount of time. Spoken before them has brought forward the same points they have. They might not want to repeat. They might just, because we have your letters as well, and all the councillors have your letters. So I'll just start out with hopefully everybody's still there. Ashley, is Ashley there? I can't. I get my list up.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, I don't see her listed as an attendee at this time. But the next one, Jennifer and Paul Frayne.
Yes, Jennifer. I see Jennifer's is there, or maybe Paul.
Promoted. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Jennifer. Paul. Oh, it's Jennifer. Okay, go ahead, Jennifer.
Thank you. So yeah, I'll start. I'm attending to submit my opposition of the proposed revision. So we purchased our home on Prospect Street in 2014, and we did so after reviewing the original subdivision plans and carefully considering how this would impact the traffic on the street in front of our house. After a great deal of consideration and discussion, we decided that we could live with the 27, 28 homes behind us, knowing this would mean about 54 additional cars going by our house each day. It was the upper limit of what we considered reasonable, and we are extremely disappointed to learn that these plans, which we believe to be set, could be changing. The 54 cars, which we were wary of but accepting, will realistically be more than 80. This is significantly more. I can say with certainty that we would not have purchased our home if we had known there was the potential for 40 additional units behind us. All this additional traffic will leave our road unsafe for my 5-year-old son. While I appreciate that the town installed a sidewalk along Prospect Street, there is no boulevard separating it from the road. There isn't even a curb separating the sidewalk from the road in sections, including directly in front of our and our neighbors' homes. There are no barriers keeping children on the sidewalk safe from these many passing cars. For these reasons, I'm strongly opposed to the proposed change to the subdivision plan. Thanks.
Thank you. It looks like Mayor Bridge may be frozen at this time. Do we still have quorum? So it looks like we actually only have 3. Oh, there's Ron Elliott right there. So Ron, would you be comfortable at this time taking the chair position? I just have to ask that you would unmute yourself.
Sure, I can take over if you want. I guess we just move to the next person that's available to speak. Our guests that are available.
That's correct. So Quinn has been promoting them. The next on the list was Kenneth Hopkins. Alex Goodard is there as well. So do we want to bring Alex forward first because he was also
okay.
So Alex, we're just going to ask you to speak.
Hello there. Am I on air?
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
So same with Jen Frayne, my response is that I'm not in favor of these changes. I purchased this property as an investment, and my investment doesn't just include my property, but the entire neighborhood and the curb appeal. And we purchased this property with the understanding that they would be single-family, single-story homes. The presenter earlier spoke about Milton Cellar Crescent in Palmerston, which is a mix of single-family and multi-dwelling homes. And I know two people who moved away from their single-dwelling homes on Milton Cellar, specifically because of the noise coming from the joined homes. When you pack homes closer together, you're selling cheaper properties to younger families, which means more noise, more parties, more cars on the streets, and it chased people off of that street. I don't want to be chased off our street with increasing noise caused by this. I feel that this amendment to the plan is going to negatively affect the property values of the 5 existing homes that are here. And like I said, we purchased our home on the understanding that we would be part of a community similar to the one that was already built on Old 81 and Grand Trunk to the south of us. And now that this is going to be a crowded area, as Jen Frayne said earlier, that's all going to affect my investment's value. So I'm very strongly against that. Thank you.
That's all, Alec. Okay, we'll move to our next person if there's anyone else available. I have no knowledge of who's on, who isn't. So if you could, Annalene, just move them along as we need them. Okay.
Yep. So Quinn is promoting next Ken Hopkins. And he's up.
Sorry, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I'd like to agree with what Alex has been saying earlier. I'm in full agreement with that, but I'd also like to bring up the point that because of the increased volume of traffic that's going to be going through this area, that increases a problem that's already at that junction. I would, in a way of alleviating this, if the site plan could continuation of the road Raglan Street across and give that as an access, then that would give fire, emergency vehicles, all that area would be accessible to them. Whereas at the moment, if anything should happen down at Prospect and Toronto Street, all the houses that are in here are trapped, like there's no way out. You wouldn't build a house with one door, so why would you put an estate in with only one way in and out? That's my concern, and there is possibility because of the land availability that it could continue on to Raglan Street. At least that would give us another way out of there. That was my main concern.
That's all you have, Ken?
That's all I have, Ron. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I see Deputy Mayor Turton's back on. Have you got your voice there, Dave?
Yes, sir, we're on.
Okay, well, we've been going through the list of people that are visitors that have some concerns about this. So if you, Annalene's just moving us through that, and then I'll let you finish it up if you want to.
Thanks, Ron. I'm okay with you going ahead and doing it. I mean, I've missed quite a bit now, and I'm not even sure where we are, so.
Okay.
I'll go ahead, Ron.
Sure. Is Mary Beth next, I believe, is she?
It appears that we have Mary Lou Brown now on.
Oh, Mary Lee Brown, okay.
Hi,
Mary
everyone.
Lou. How are you?
Hi there.
You're on site now.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'll be brief. I just wanted to say I own the home at 470 Toronto Street, which is adjacent to the proposed subdivision. And we've known for many years that a subdivision was inevitable. So the plan, which was shared with us in 2017, was not a surprise. We've been very comfortable with the previous plan that was approved by the county and the town of Minto for a development of R1 residential housing of 27 single detached 60-foot lots. That plan would be an extension of the long-standing neighborhood of single-family homes. Now the developer is apparently asking for approval of an entirely different proposal, which would include moving from 27 to 40, which is a massive change from the previous plan. I'm opposed to this huge increase in the density. Our streets in this section of town are already high traffic zones. Toronto Street, which is a county road, by the way, is a direct route from urban centers to TG Meadow Car Parts Plant. It connects Highway 21 to County Road 8. The speed limit is 50 kilometers an hour, which most days is a mere suggestion rather than reality. Prospect Street's the only entrance and exit to the proposed development, and that street runs right past Palmerston Public School. The intersection of Prospect and Toronto Street is not a stop street, so the safety of pedestrians, especially children walking to school, is already an issue. Toronto Street is also a primary access road to Norwell District Secondary School and includes school buses and personal vehicles driving to Norwell with access from Toronto Street. All this happens along with the regular high traffic of cars, trucks, bicycles, and transports. The proposal with a density increase of 75% has all those additional vehicles driving up and down Prospect Street, which is a neighborhood of families with primary school children, and in order to access Toronto Street. The proposal completely changes the essence of the present residential area, which was alluded to, but I might mention that other dense developments in the towns, the most recent being across from Highway 21, are not in any part of an already existing residential area. I'm not against development, nor do I subscribe to the not in my backyard philosophy, but I am very much against this proposal to rezone an already approved plan when there is a substantial parcel of land at the north end of town where a multi-use development would not be adjacent or change the essence of an already existing neighborhood. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Lou. Who's next, Annalee? You're
Yep,
muted.
sorry, I'm just having a look here to see who Quinn's bringing up. Probably Paul Brown would be next. He was also on there.
Welcome, Paul.
Just waiting to see if he comes forward. If he has anything new to say, I'll ask him to unmute. We'll just give him a minute.
I'm there.
Hi,
Hello?
you're there, Paul. You're not, we can't see you, but you
Can you
talk.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Well, if you can hear me, then that's fine. That's fine.
All right, go ahead, Paul.
I based my objections, both written and verbal, on the initial planning report that was submitted and posted to the county site. So several of the things to which I object have been partially answered by Steve Weaver, but there still are several things that I kind of wish to take exception to. And at the end of the day, I guess we'll figure out who wins. I do take some objection to what Steve said initially when he's talking about the existing neighborhood, because the circles that he had on his map aren't, in my opinion, in the existing neighborhood. The existing neighborhood are the people next door, not the people down and across the street or half a mile away up on Derby Street or over in Miller Crescent. So what I'm talking about is the people that live in the neighborhood, by my definition of neighborhood. I do take some exception, minor to some sizes. Now, what I'm going to do is I prepared a presentation. I'm going to go through some of that presentation, fully ignore. I apologize for repeating things that may have already been said, but that's how I started into this thing. So with your permission, I will do that. I'm opposed to this development and the requested change in zoning for the following reasons: density, increased traffic, and its failure to comply with sections of the official plan for the county and the town of Minto. The first I'll deal with is density. In the planning justification report presented by Galaxy Homes, they define this as a compact development, and indeed it is. The proposed development will increase the density from 23 units to 40 units. That's an increase of 175%, all on the same property. The average dwelling lot size will be 40 feet compared to the traditional 60 and 66-foot lots of other subdivisions and residences in the area. That's a reduction that ranges from 33 to 40%. The semi-detached lots that are going to be in this development are smaller than the semi-detached lots at the Righthaven development. So in my opinion, this is totally incompatible with the existing neighborhood in this part of the community. The next one I'd like to address is the failure to comply with the policies, objectives, and strategies of the official plan with respect to compatibility, character, and scale of small town development. Now, under Part 3 of the official plan, the following growth strategies are defined. A strategy of compatible with existing uses. The existing use in this area is single-family homes sitting on lots of 60, 66, and greater lot size. The proposed development has single-family homes on 40 lots. This is a reduction of at least 33%, which I submit is not compatible to the existing area. The strategy of small town scale. Under section 3.3 of the growth strategy, it states as an objective that to promote the growth where it can be accommodated, taking into account small town scale and historic streetscapes. I would submit that the small town scale in this part of the municipality are residences that sit on 60-foot lots or greater. The proposed Galaxy 40-foot lot development fails to take this into consideration and acknowledges this by referring to the development as compact. 60 feet compared to 40 feet. That's not even close in scale. Now, Part 8 of the official plan is identified as urban centers, and it refers to low density and states that the character of existing low density residential neighborhoods should generally be protected. So if things are generally to be protected, why would you not protect this one? Now, Galaxy also state in their initial report that their development is consistent with the surrounding area and consistent with the original development. And I disagree with that. The dictionary describes consistent as being the same. And I would submit that reducing lot sizes by 33% is not the same. And increasing density by 175% is not the same. Now, the Galaxy Planning Report clearly identifies the policies, strategies, and objectives of the official plan, including the ones I'm referring to. However, not one of the items in that initial report that I have talked, sorry, I lost my point. Not one of the items I refer to is addressed in any detail, if at all. And so by not addressing them, one can only presume they don't meet them. Now, the official plan was adopted in 1999, just 2 years ago, by the county and by the town of Minto. So these policies, strategies, and objectives that I refer to, they're not ancient history. They're clearly stated in the official plan, so they must be important. Otherwise, why would they be in the plan? If council adopted this plan only 2 years ago, how can it today accept a request that fails to meet some of their clearly stated objectives, strategies, and policies. The strategy of being compatible to an existing area is offset by a 33% reduction in lot size. The strategy of maintaining and protecting small town character is offset by an acknowledged compact development and increased traffic. The strategy of taking into account small town scale, 175% increase in the density. We are a small town, and this development does not, in my opinion, meet the conditions of the official plan pertaining to us in a small town. I submit this zoning request should be denied for its failure to do so. In closing, there is a saying that says, don't bring me your problems, bring me a solution. I would propose the following. I would propose the development be reduced by 4 lots. 1 lot to the south, 1 to the west, and 2 to the east and north. To the south, the lot size would increase from 43.95 feet to 52.74. To the west, lot sizes would increase from 39.36 feet to 49.2. And to the east and north, lot sizes would go from 39.36 feet to 47.23. The semis would remain the same, providing a buffer to the smaller lots on the north and the east. This would provide a much better transition from the existing homes into the new development, and from the existing homes, a buffer to the semis, and to be all round a better fit into the neighborhood in this section of the community. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul. Have we got anybody else, Annalene, that was?
Yes, through you, Chair Elliott, we do. I know that Paul Frayne, we had tried him before, but he does want to speak. So we are promoting him. We'll just wait for him to come on with his, to unmute. And there he is there.
Yes, Paul.
Just need him. There he is.
You got the floor, Paul.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to listen to the neighborhood. And I just want to thank all the neighbors for all the things that they've brought up. And I agree with what my neighbors have stated. I also oppose this development. And my main point here is that I'm having trouble understanding why there isn't a direct access onto Toronto Street, why you would ever bring that many new cars all the way up and down Prospect and around. And I haven't really received a good answer to that. It seems to be that there's a utilities right of way, extension on Derby Street. And if someone could speak to that, I think that would be really good. And I just also want to say that I think in general, the people that live here that have already invested in this community should be the priority versus proposed new developments. I'm certainly really excited about the developments and the people moving to this town because I think it makes our town a better place. But it really needs to be done in a way that respects what is already built and the people that have already chosen to live here. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Paul. Annalene, anyone else? Or?
Yes, we do have other people here. Just give me a minute.
Okay.
I know that Quinn is going to promote, I think it was Mary Beth Wilson, if she's still on. And she is there. We'll just wait for her to start her video and unmute herself. There, she's unmuted.
Oops.
We got you, Mary Beth.
Oh, yay. Sorry,
yeah.
this is my very first Zoom meeting. So thank you for bearing with me. And I've also been,
storm.
Yes, I've also been in hiding. So I'm not really ready for this, but that's okay. I want to just say that when I built here 3 years ago, as much as anybody could, I was guaranteed a subdivision that would be single family, single story homes with a potential for semis. I appreciate that the subdivision needs to be developed. I appreciate that, everybody needs a place to live. But when I think about, there are two main things that really concern me about this. When I think about 86 homes with one access egress point, I think about a fire on Prospect Street somewhere. I think about a water main breaking. And I think, how then do people get in and get out? Secondly, the school crossing is at Prospect and Toronto Street. I'm going to assume that with 40 new homes, there are going to be children, and I hope there are. But with the traffic and a school crossing, is that safe? I understand there's an access at Derby Street. There's a potential one at Raglan Street. I'm not opposed to the development if they maintain the character of our community here. What I really, really need to see is another 1 or 2 ways in or out. As you know, Ron, Toronto Street is crazy busy with traffic from TG Minto. And we need to do something so that all of these people, all of us, are not coming out from one place. I'm hoping that whoever develops in here can really understand that we want our town to grow. We want there to be more population. But take a look at the homes that exist and let's maintain the character of what is already here. That's what's in my heart. I worry about children crossing at Toronto Street. I worry about the traffic. I worry about the density. And it's my understanding, maybe I'm wrong, that there is a development happening north and west of Palmerston near Tim Hortons. And I guess I look at semis that would probably have to be 2 stories with a tiny frontage that they have. And I wonder if that density would be better served in that new development, near Tim Hortons on what I think is Hein Miller's farm. Certainly build houses, bring people. How's our sewer system? How's our school system? Are we prepared for that? That's my concern. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Mary Beth.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Annalena, anyone else? We're doing good.
We're doing pretty good here. Now we did have one other person. I do not see them. We have someone who called in, but of course we can't tell who was called in. And I have not been advised that someone was calling in instead of going online for the attendees. So that appears to be, yeah, I mean, there's some different names, but the names are not ones that were registered.
They have to be registered to speak.
They did need to register in advance, and they were to change their name on the system, so we would know that it was them. The other one we had was Keaton Ross, but I do not see Keaton Ross at this time on there.
Okay, so that's it then. I'll now call on Evan or Steve or both of you if you want to rebut any of these statements that have been brought forward.
No, not at this time. I mean, what we wanted to have an opportunity to hear from the neighborhood at this meeting and take that back. And I don't want to respond with, comments and responses that haven't been fully thought through and discussed with our clients, with the rest of the team. There's engineers and others involved, obviously, in the design and layout of this. And we have some things to review with town and county staff as well. Certainly, we'll be looking further into access and traffic considerations and coming back with some further information about that. We'll take all of the great feedback we've heard tonight and review it further and come back with some additional information to respond to the comments and questions that have been raised.
Thanks, Steve. Evan, have you got anything to bring forward?
Oh, I think Steve said it really well.
Okay, thank you. All right, and I'll ask council if they've got any questions or comments they'd like to bring forward. at this time? Councillor Anderson. You need to unmute yourself.
Yep.
Thanks.
Sorry. Thank you for that.
That's okay.
I share the concerns. I certainly understand the need for development. And I understand that a mix of housing, we do have several subdivisions that have that mix of housing, but I'm very concerned about the one street as well. I was when I first looked at it, and I know we have one other development in town where there's just one access, and I'm going, I'm a nurse, so I've got some emergency background, and paramedics and firemen are my friends because they bring us our business. But you have to wonder about a community like that where there's only one way in and the same way out. What happens there? And we're looking at a fair number of homes there. So I share that concern. I mean, streets are going to be busy. Toronto Street is super busy, but there are crossing guards where the kids are crossing. I mean, we take good care of getting our children safely to school now. I don't see why those things wouldn't apply, but it's a lot of people in a small area with one access, which you've obviously clearly heard from the neighbors, but I share that concern. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Anyone else from council wish to speak to this? Yes, Deputy Mayor Turton.
Yeah, I'm very sorry. I lost my hydro here, so I missed a whole bunch of Stephen Evans' report. And I have questions, but I'm sure they've already been asked. So I'm going to wait. And I agree with a lot of the things that have been said by the folks that live in that area over there. And I have some of the same concerns. So I guess the question that I have is, how flexible are you guys in, for example, what Paul Brown put forth, a few less homes and larger lots, and maybe keep the 16 in the middle, and a few and less density. So, and I'm sure you guys are, again, you're going to go talk and come back to us sometime. And so, I mean, you don't have to answer that question now. And I'm pretty sure that we likely talked about Derby Street and the reasons why we can't, or the reasons why we couldn't. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But appreciate you guys looking at Minto to develop in, and putting up a bunch of new houses. I mean, that is the wave of the future, and Galaxy might as well be doing it as somebody else. But we certainly need to listen to the people and go forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none, I believe you fellows have had the opportunity to hear a lot of questions and comments. At least no one just said, no, I don't want it for no reason. They get forward some good opportunity and good reasons for you to bring forward and maybe have a look at for the future and see what you come up with. So,
Through you, Chair Elliott, there is something that you do have to read at the end if you have.
yes, I see that. Chair Bridge, so it'll be Chair Elliott, will state the following. If you wish to be notified of the decision of a council of the town of Minto in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Harrison, NOG 1ZO, or by email at annaline@townofminto.on.ca. If there's no further comments, I will adjourn that meeting. Thank you.
And then if we ask Deputy Mayor Turton if you're able to take the mayor's position at this time, if that's possible.
Thank you very much, Ron, for doing that.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your help along the way here, Annaline. So you can, I'm in the dark.
Okay, so through you, Deputy Mayor Turton, the next is a resolution moving us into Committee of Adjustment to consider public meetings. So it's moved by Councillor McKenzie and seconded by Councillor Dirksen that the Town of Minto Committee of the Whole convenes into Committee of Adjustment.
Do we have any objection to moving into the Committee of Adjustment? I see no hands, so let's move into the Committee of Adjustment. And we have another delegation.
So through you, Deputy Mayor, I'm not sure if you're able to pull up the agenda for this because you've
do.
lost power.
I do. I think I can.
Okay.
So we have just 1 second till it comes up here. So I will go ahead. This is a public hearing. Public hearing agenda. So any decision reached by this committee today cannot be used to set a precedent. Each application considered by the committee is dealt with on its own merits, and no two applications are exactly the same. The public hearing is to consider a minor variance application, MV 2021-14, Dustin and Sarah Golly. And I will ask Secretary Treasurer McRobb to give out the information below.
Thank you. The property subject to the proposed minor variance application is legally described as the concession 4, part lot 30, with a municipal address of 8971 Road 6 South in the Town of Minto. The subject property is approximately 1.55 acres or 0.63 hectare. The purpose and effect of the application is to provide relief for the subject property from the maximum accessory structure size. Section 6.1.4b of the Town of Minto's Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 01-86 as amended permits for a maximum accessory structure of 2,000 feet, whereas the applicant is proposing the construction of a 3,000 square foot accessory structure. Additional relief may be considered at this meeting. The notices were mailed to the property owners within 200 feet or 60 meters of the subject property, as well as the applicable agencies, on August 26, 2021, and posted on the subject property on August 27, 2021. Comments have been received from our planning technician and as well as a junior planner from Wellington County. I'd like to advise committee that other than the owner, there are no speakers registered to participate in this public meeting. And back to you, Chair Turton.
Thank you, Clerk McRobb. So we'll move into the reports and we'll ask our planning technician from the Town of Minto, Ashley Sawyer, to begin. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Turton. So Annalene has described what the applicant is proposing to do. Essentially, there's an old existing piecemeal barn on the property that's used for storage. Due to the structure's age, as well as, additions, I'm assuming over the years, it is quite cut up. So the homeowner is now looking to demolish that structure and build a new structure that would be a more open and efficient layout for him to use for storage purposes. So I did want to note too, the existing accessory structure does appear to be too close to the property line. So by demolishing it and building this new accessory structure, there's also an opportunity to rectify this. Town and county staff believe that this is minor in nature and it does maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and official plan. And Maitland Valley also noted they did not have any concerns. As Annalene mentioned, we did not receive any comments or concerns by any neighboring landowners either. So town staff is recommending that the committee consider providing the relief they requested for the accessory structure. And I'm here for questions as well as the owner, Dustin.
Is Asaveri here with us, our junior planner from the county?
No, for minor variance.
All right, thank you. So do we want to proceed with Dustin first, or do we have questions for Ashley? How about we do that? Annalene, can you get or move Dustin?
Yes, so Quinn is just bringing Dustin on here, and we'll just need him to unmute himself. And there we go. So Dustin, if you can just unmute yourself, we can see a video, but there we go.
Dustin, are you there? If you are, we can't hear you.
It does look like there might be another account in participants still under attending.
Do you see anybody else, Annaleen? Dustin, you're on. Are you there?
So it does not appear that he can hear us at this time. I know that we do not have anyone else that is against this, so we could probably just move on at this point.
Okay. So do we have questions from council for Ashley? Go ahead, Councillor McKenzie.
Thank you, Chair Dave.
Dustin, are you there now? Sorry, Councillor McKenzie, go ahead.
If I'm reading this report right, Ashley, it says the Minto Committee of Adjustment denied this application. And what's that all about? If even, you know, I know there's quite a 65% increase in floor area, but upon reading that, I wonder how it got this far. If it was denied by the committee.
I know town staff and the county are certainly endorsing the committee receive it and approve it. So I'm not sure if maybe you're seeing the denied template, because we do provide both for the committee to consider. But yeah, we are recommending the approval. The way the zoning bylaw reads as well is that you get 2,000 square feet for each full acre. His property is 1.55 acres approximately. So essentially he could be building up to 2,300 square feet without issue if the bylaw was worded slightly differently. That being said, he is asking for 3,000 square feet, but this is an opportunity to rectify the current accessory structure that is too close to the property line as well as a farmer's field. So it's a bit of a trade-off, but we are recommending the approval.
So that, is it misprint or what is it? It just, I'm reading it denied by the Committee of Adjustment. So that caught my eye right off the bat.
The recommendation I have in the report is that the Committee of Adjustment receives the planning technician's report regarding the minor variance for property legally described as concession 4 part lot 30 with the municipal address of 8971 Road 6 South.
I'm back.
Okay.
Councillor McKenzie, are you okay with that?
Well, we're both agreeing to some stuff, and I don't know why it was printed like that if there was no opposition to it.
So we do provide both templates for the committee to consider. We provide both the
Okay.
approved, so maybe that's the confusion there.
Okay. All right, so we do have our mayor back. Mayor Bridge, we're getting close to the end of this. If you want to take
That's all right.
over.
I can, David, if you want. I just finished. No, you finish off this one. You're doing the public meeting.
So,
Yeah.
so I see that Dustin has his hand up. Dustin, are you there? I am
here, but cannot be heard, he states.
Okay. So is there anything, Dustin, that you would like to add that hasn't been already added? Can everybody see what Dustin is writing? He is, I'm here, but cannot be heard. Dustin, you can hear us? Yes. Okay. So is there anything that you want to add to this meeting? Yes, he's got yes. So Annaleen, can we get him to call your cell?
He could call into the meeting with the number that he was provided in. I am on the call in.
I am on the call in.
Oh, you might be the number that is showing
down
as
the bottom
attendee
here.
then.
Okay.
We might try then, and Quinn, if you wanted to
Unmute him.
promote that number, and we'll see where we get with that. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dustin.
Excellent. Now I'm finally in.
Good.
I apologize. I had to log in through a remote desktop at work. That's why I'm not there, but I can't get the audio to pick up obviously off the microphone from my home desktop. So
no problem, Dustin. You can go right ahead. The floor is yours.
So I had a few slides to share, but I'm not going to be able to share those just to show in that way. Yeah, so we've purchased this property approximately 2 years ago. And at this point, we realized the barn structure that is there is in such a state of disrepair, it's going to collapse. Pre-existing, there was another structure that was at the southwest corner of the property, which technically is I mean, it's a century type building that was falling down. It's actually technically on the road allowance for Road 6. It came down in a windstorm in April, so it was being used somewhat as just a tractor storage shed, even though it was technically on the road allowance, pre-existing probably the property at that time. Knowing where the property boundary is, and there is an odd well agreement on this property, we assumed the best thing then to do would be to remove said barn that is being used for storage and replace with what we thought would be a usable size storage shed, mostly just for, you know, an RV that's currently parked on the property that used to be where the pre-existing storing shed that came down already this spring, a tractor, an ATV, just simply small storage items like that. I would like to incorporate part of it to have a workbench area in it as well, which is why the reason for the extension of space. I very much appreciate the fact that there is an opportunity in this to realign off of setback minimums for the requirement with a new building. I think it'll make it an easier adjustment for me and the adjacent farm property owner in that way.
Okay.
One of the slides we had was just showing the building design. Of course, we've got to move forward with our building plan after and if the minor variance would be approved.
Okay, so do we have any questions for Dustin? Seeing none. Ashley, are we okay to move ahead?
I believe so, yep.
Okay. Annalene, is there any other registered speakers?
Through you, Deputy Mayor Turton, there is not. What I could do is I can provide a resolution for the committee to consider from the fact that there is no one that is not in favor or opposing it coming forward. May I read to you one that approves it?
I think so. Is anybody against that? Go ahead, Annalene.
Thank you. That the Town of Minto Committee of Adjustment approves the application by Dustin and Sarah Golly for property legally described as concession 4 part lot with a municipal address of 8971 Road 6 South in the Town of Minto to provide relief from section 6.1.4b of the Town of Minto's comprehensive zoning bylaw 01-86 as amended to permit a maximum accessory structure of 3,000 square feet. I would need a mover and a seconder for that.
Can we have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Mayor Bridge, thank you very much. Is there any other questions or anything right now, because we're going to vote? Anybody against this motion? Nobody against, so I declare it carried. So anyone wishing to receive a copy of the notice of decision of the Committee of Adjustment in respect to the minor variance application must make a written request to the clerk of the Town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89 Harriston, NOG 1ZO, or by email at annalene@town.minto.on.ca. Hearing no other questions, I will officially adjourn the public hearing. Thank you, everybody, and I'm going to pass the chair to our mayor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Turton. I'm glad you got back too. You were knocked off as well, I take it.
We lost hydro. We still don't have hydro.
Yeah, that's what happened at the end with me too. So what I did for the council, I took a little drive around Pike Lake and through, because there's a lot of sirens and there's an actual fire truck went by me, so heading out that way. So I don't know what's going on, but we'll find out later.
Councillor Gunson missed the call.
Yeah, he missed the call on that one. It was the ladder truck too. No, it was the ladder truck. Anyways, yeah, so bear with me on that. I did drive in. I should, in hindsight, I probably should have come in here first, but I didn't think the storm was going to hit about 7, but it came a little early. So anyways, we'll see what happens once we're done. So we're moved by Councillor Gunson, second by Councillor Elliott, that the Committee of Adjustment convenes a regular council. Anybody opposed? None. Okay. Any notice of motion? None. Okay. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Anderson, that the Council of Town of Minto ratifies the motion made in the committee of the whole. Anybody opposed? Carried. Good. Moved by Councilor Anderson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Turton, that the bylaw number 2021-74 to confirm actions of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Minto respecting the meeting held September 7th, 2021 be read first, second, and third time and passed on open council seal of the corporation. Anybody opposed? Carried. Moved by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Gudson, the Council of the Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. And thanks everybody for participating that had jumped into different roles. I heard Ron was on board once, and then Dave and Derek, and I was kind of in between. So thanks for all that help. And I see we don't have Judy back, so she didn't make it back in. Look, Councilor Anderson, you meant your internet stayed up. I can't believe that.
Yep, for the whole thing. Hard to believe.
Why would you want to get rid of that good internet? Anyways, could I have
Palmerston never got it as bad as I did towards Harrison and Mount Forest. Mount Forest got it the worst. I think Councillor McKenzie got it a real bang up.
Okay.
Job on his place.
Let me just, I'll just, before we close out, Derek, can you stay on for me? And then I'll just talk to you afterwards, see if you know anything more. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to give everybody a quick update. So we've got a few trees down.
There's one right in front of us here.
Yeah, there's some trees down and we got some power outage. We have called staff in. Staff are in now. They've just left the public works yard here with some equipment. So that's the latest update I have right at the moment.
Okay, well, you're in the office. That's right. So I'll see you in a minute.
Okay.
But that's good. No, and yeah, it heard some things, but that's, hopefully we're not hit hard. Okay, thanks everybody. And I'll find out what happened in the public meeting. It was just getting started and I was kind of interested in everybody's comments, but we all got to read them. So we'll move forward from there. Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks.